The following study is based on a data science project for finding the relationship between education and employment. All the data sets you will find here are from Indian based, and they're found from Indian government websites such as Aish and CMIE. There's a huge relationship between education and employment, and it's a pretty obvious one. Uh, People usually from a lower class end up working, who have lower access to education, end up working at a lower level and mostly blue collar work. People from a more educated and with more resources will usually end up doing more specialized jobs and white collar jobs. Um,
Moving ahead to the data science part, we first import the required libraries, then we move on to pre-processing the data. So our data consists of data sets for education and data sets for employment. For education, we got a data set from from a government website called Aish. And for employment, we got a data set from another government website called CMIE. Just for postdoc, just for PhD, we have our data set was split into three different Excel sheets. And so once we imported the data sets, we merged them based on serial number. And since we merged them based on serial number, we had duplicate columns for states and a few columns that had NaN values. So here we drop the duplicate tables and the NaN values. And finally, we fill the NaN values with zeros and make our data more, make it usable. And then finally, we here, our data is, it's not, it's our data represents the total number of PhD, male, female, total, etc. in each state. But to make it more useful while performing statistical analysis, we have divided each of the we have divided this grand total by the population of that particular state to make it scale it uniformly. So we have the population list here. This is in the same order as the states, the same order as the states in the in our data set. And finally, here we divide we divide each of these population. We divide the total number of the grand total from our data by the respective states population. And once we divide, our graph looks somewhat like the 0.02, 0.03, and so on. And then we move on to, so this is our final data set, just the top header part. You can see it's been updated. And then finally, that was for the data set, the education data set of 2019. We do the similar pre-processing for 2018-19, where again we merged and we removed the duplicate columns, and we even here we even replaced the column names accordingly. And here it's again bringing our data to a common scale, and then you can see again the grand total looks similar to our previous year's grand total. And the same thing is done for 2017-18, and the same thing is done for 2016 and 17. So that was the pre-processing we did for the education data set. Coming to the employment data set, we again read our we import our data, and then here we have, so the data here is a monthly data, and we get down to a yearly form. You can see that here. So we have each state and we have the data for each year. And even here, we have divided the total data by the population of that particular state to bring it to a common scale, not only among the different years, but also with the education um, data. And moving on to summary statistics, um, Trisha will take over.
For summary statistics, we've performed all the basic summarizations such as mean for all the years, as well as median. You know. Coming to hypothesis testing. Okay, wait. For hypothesis testing, we first figure out whether our data set is tests are parametric or non-parametric. Since this does not follow like a normal distribution, it is non-parametric. So, and the number of samples that we have is greater than one, and the type of analysis that we're doing is not differentiation, but it's more like it's more correlation. Because of this reason, we chose Spearman rank correlation, and you can see over here that the value of p was less than 0.05. That means null hypothesis is rejected, and there is a dependency between employment and education. If you go, okay, the basic going back to data, going back to the data visualizing part, we've plotted the education for every for all 4 years for each and every state, and you can see over here that one of the main aspects is that Tamil Nadu has the highest education during the year 2019. In general, Delhi has a pretty high education over the past 4 years. Next, for employment as well, you can see we've plotted it for all 4 years for all the following states, and you can see that Telangana has one of the highest uh, numbers for employment, and Meghalaya, Tripura are in the bottom. Next, we've merged and formed another data frame with employment and education for like the grand total of employment and education. And this data frame was used to plot education and employment for all 4 years. And this data was used to plot the like to show the difference for each year for education versus employment. 2016 for each state, you can see that the number for education and the number for employment. Yeah. Here you can see that Delhi has a very high in 2016. You can see Delhi has a pretty high education and comparatively a low employment rate for that year. Next. And we've also plotted graphs for QQ plot, and this is like these are the probability distribution graphs as well. Box plot, QQ plot, and the probability distribution graph. Moving on to, as I explained, hypothesis testing before, moving on to linear regression, which Shloka and I will explain.
So, as our null hypothesis was rejected, there's a chance that our alternate hypothesis, which means that our education and employment have some kind of correlation. And to show this, we use linear regression. As you can see, we reshape the data, and then we split it into training and testing data sets. After which we call the linear regression function from the sklearn package, and then we fit the training data sets into the model. After which we calculate the slope, which is nothing but the coefficient, the intercept, and then we also print the line that'll be formed. After that, we predict using the model that we just created. We predict the line and we plot it. The blue line, which is drawn, is the line predicted, and the black dots, which are present, are the actual values. And as you can see, they all they have a decent, they aren't on the line, but at the same time they have minimal error. And after this, we also calculate the root mean squared error, which is comparatively low. So we can say that there exists a relationship between employment and education. So to conclude, we set out with an aim to try to prove that education and employment are related. Please, can you scroll up? So after doing pre-processing and plotting the graphs, we can see from these, we can infer that employment is more in most states, as this is because of unskilled labor, and as we also saw from the hypothesis testing, we as our distribution was not non-parametric, we used the Spearman's rank correlation, and we got a p-value which is less than 0.05 or 5%, and hence our null hypothesis was rejected. And to prove our alternate hypothesis, we use linear regression, which is a supervised model, supervised training, and we plotted the graph. We got a relationship, and hence we can say that employment and education do have some correlation. And thank you.